Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Destination Chautauqua, the 2013 debate series, series of two. Last week, as you all know, if you joined us, we had Ed Carutis here and Dave Himmeline, who are running for legislator in District 18. And hopefully you enjoyed the program that we presented and had an opportunity to find out a little bit more about those gentlemen. I'd like to thank those gentlemen for coming in and taking time out of their week. Today we are going to have two more folks. We're going to have our guests today, Vince Horrigan and Ron Johnson, who will be debating for the position of County Executive. I'd like to thank them for taking out their time to present their views and perspectives on this job, this office, this position. It's the highest ranking position in the county, and it certainly has a lot of responsibilities to it. I want to explain everything to you, the viewers, and also to the candidates as we go along. But this is going to be a structured debate, all right, with questions that are presented by myself to the candidates. And everybody gets to respond during a certain period of time. So for instance, a question will be posed for 2 minutes, and the other candidate gets it for 2 minutes. There'll be a 1 minute opportunity for the candidate to rebuttal, and then back to the other candidate to rebuttal. For today's program, it was decided by a coin flip that candidate number one will be Mr. Ron Johnson, and candidate number two will be Vince Horrigan. And then we'll go through a series of questions, and then we reverse order as we go along. So it's a little complicated to explain, but it works out pretty well. All right. For you, the viewers here today, you have an opportunity in the third section of the debate where you can call in and your questions will be presented. We have an operator who will be taking calls from this very moment on, and we're going to try to get a couple questions in or more towards the end, and I'll read the question to the candidates and they'll have their opportunity to respond at that time. If you do want to call in, we're going to post the phone number here in just a second. It's 753-5225, and that's for any call-ins. Now, let me point out, folks, today is October 19th. It's Saturday, and do not call if it's any other day because you're going to be watching a pre-recorded version of this show. All right? Now, thing to point out, the opinions expressed today are those of the candidates and not necessarily of myself, the staff, or anyone here involved with the studio. Now, throughout the year, we've brought many folks, many representatives of government to the Saturday morning senior report, and it's become very clear that county government is important to all of us in our lives. So today's debate is really for you folks, the viewership, to decide who you want to vote for on November 5th. Okay, so today we're going to begin the debate, and we're going to begin with candidate number one. Let me just get my papers in order here. So this question is going to go to Mr. Johnson, and please, if there's some confusion at all in what I asked, don't hesitate to ask it back. All right. Thank you, Chris. We're going to not ask the first question. I already goofed up my schedule here. I apologize. The first thing we're going to begin with, I was so excited to get to the debate part. The first thing we're going to do is each candidate will have 3 minutes to do an opening statement, and we'll begin with Mr. Johnson. Here we go.
I want to thank Access Chautauqua TV for this opportunity. I'd like to thank my worthy opponent, Mr. Horrigan, and you, the voters of Chautauqua County, for your attention and your participation. One of the things that we're all fortunate that we have two well-qualified candidates running for county executive. I'm a fifth-generation Chautauqua County resident. I grew up on a farm in the town of Arkwright, and now I live in the village of Fredonia with my wife, Brenda. I presently operate Johnson Adult Homes, and I'm president and CEO of Human Services Management. I was the developer and previous owner of Fredonia Place. My company at one time owned and operated 8 facilities across New York State and in the state of Florida. I know how to build a business. I know how to operate it successfully, to create jobs, and to make a payroll. I served my country in combat in Vietnam and as a U.S. Army Ranger instructor in Dahlonega, Georgia. I served my county as deputy sheriff for 20 years. For 16 years, I served as town justice in the town of Pomfret. I remember my county when it was vibrant and growing and innovative. I remember when if you wanted to go from point A to point B in a snowstorm, you got on a county road because they were always open. I remember innovation in the building of industrial parks and in the building of parks and trails. I remember caring for our elderly and disadvantaged as a mission and not a burden. Our county has been in a steep decline for the past 8 years, and I come to ask you to allow me to give community service one more time as your county executive. A county executive committed to return us back to a place of opportunity and promise. I look forward to this, to share my vision, and to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. All right, Mr. Horrigan, you have the opportunity for your opening statement.
Well, thank you, TV Access 5, John, and congratulations, by the way, on the Chautauqua County Chamber Award for Community Service. Just by way of introduction to you voters that I have not had the chance to meet, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and at the age of 5, came to my childhood home here in Chautauqua County. We spent our summers here, we played Little League here, we grew up in Chautauqua County, and absolutely fell in love. During the times of the Vietnam War, the draft notice came, and I had the privilege of serving the United States Air Force for 28 years. All that time returning back to the place I loved. But during that time in the United States Air Force, rising to the grade of colonel, I had a tremendous privilege to be able to not only fly America's great fighter jets, but to be able to lead and inspire men and women as a deputy commander of an F-15 fighter wing with over 5,000 people. And then having the privilege to be able to be a division deputy commander for European forces of over 20,000 people and 200 aircraft with combat operations in Bosnia and in Iraq. So leaving that opportunity and coming back to Chautauqua County, I had another privilege of service, and it was as the director of the American Red Cross. During that time, I found people that needed help, and I found people that could give help. And I saw that side of Chautauqua County, which truly inspired me and created opportunities again. As you see, time and time again, change is always on the menu. And during that period of time, I was able to reshape and restructure Red Cross operations across Western New York, and personally undertook a restructuring where a Chautauqua County chapter expanded to grow services across 3 counties, becoming the Southwestern New York chapter of the American Red Cross. We grew opportunity, we expanded our capacity, and we delivered better services than ever before. Following that level of service, I chose again to serve as Chautauqua County legislator. And over the last year and a half, I've been involved in different aspects of county government, focusing on our human services area. I found that my opportunities are going to work on keeping our taxes as low as we can, on creating welfare reform, and on growing our jobs by focusing on existing businesses. And I look forward to telling you more about that story during this debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horrigan. Okay, now we'll get to the debate questions. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. All right, gentlemen, here's the question. And I'll just put a little editorial in here. I've been following both of your campaigns. And Mr. Horrigan, I see that you have I think what you call a 3-point plan. And Mr. Johnson, what sticks out to me is the fact that you say, if you don't create 7,000 jobs, don't re-elect you the next time around. Those are the themes that I've been hearing lately. So here's the question. After 4 years of being the county executive, what will county government, what will the system, everything about us look like after 4 years in office? We'll begin with you, Mr. Johnson.
Well, I want to correct something you said. I never said that I was going to create 7,000 jobs in my first 4 years. What I said is we will have more people working, and that I will be responsible for the results of my, and the way I will gear that responsibleness is by having more people working at the end of my term as I do in the first, or when I had to start with. And what I'm promising is that if I can't do it, I won't ask for your vote again. At the end of 4 years of my term, we are going to have a more cooperative government. We're going to have partnerships forged with the towns and villages, state and federal government, in order to find solution to these problems that we've continued to fight with over the last 7 or 8 years. And I plan on those partnerships making our solution come forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Horrigan, same question. What will government look like after 4 years of you being county executive if so elected?
Well, thank you. Chautauqua County government over the next 4 years will grow. Growth is essential. We'll growth in our tourism industry, and we'll grow in our industrial sector. We will not grow in our taxes. We cannot grow in the cost of government. We will be lean. My sincere hope is we will be able to privatize the Chautauqua County home to permit investment in jobs, investment in new levels of care, and investment by growing the tax base. We will also collaborate, but not just with our government partners, but with our not-for-profit partners as well. Government does not have the solution to every problem. We're here to provide the infrastructure. We're here to implement our plans, and that is essential. So we'll be a government that is stable in our tax base, but has growth in our jobs and attracting new business and working with existing business.
All right, Mr. Johnson, you have a minute to respond or expand on your answer if you like.
Well, we are going to have growth in this county because we can't use the same thinking. When we talk about economic development in this county, we have to rethink everything. We have to think of how we do business, who we do business with, and what the results is of that. I believe that we have not had results in the last 7 years, and I believe that we need to do something different. I have a new team, and we have a new look at how county government is going to operate.
Okay, and Mr. Horrigan, you have an opportunity to rebut.
Well, I would say rethinking. No, what we need to do is further develop. We need specifics in this area, and here they are. First of all, we're going to look at the top 100 businesses in Chautauqua County. We're going to determine the highest potential for growth, and then we're going to put together academic, we're going to put together technology, we're going to put together private investment, and we are going to focus on growing jobs with those businesses. Here's another specific thing we're going to do. We're going to engage our second homeowners. Many of these people are successful business leaders in Cleveland, in Pittsburgh, and outside the county. And we're going to entice them here. We're going to entice them to create spin-off businesses, supply chain businesses, to be able to use incentives such as our Startup New York tax-free options that are really a clear advantage. Of course, we'll use our industrial parks and the advantages they have. But we need specific answers and how we're going to get them here. And it's through engaging existing businesses, and it's looking to the people that have already bought into Chautauqua County. That's how we're going to get this growing.
Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, if we can move on to another question, same topic regarding Chautauqua County and infrastructure. And so I will try my best to explain this question. being the county executive is one thing, but you also have to work with, I believe it's now 17 county legislators in the coming year. And so therefore, each year, the county legislature attempts to fund a variety of infrastructure capital projects. However, there never seems to be enough money to cover the requested projects. How do we not fall behind in maintaining such things as our roads, our bridges, buildings, and services? How could we change this to support the infrastructure that we badly need to this day? We begin with candidate number 2, Mr. Horrigan.
Well, thank you, John. We are showing right now kind of the answer to this question during the current budget cycle. We have been able to create efficiencies in the budget. We are investing $300,000 in this year's budget to be able to handle the infrastructure of our roads. One of the reasons why I think it's so essential to privatize our county home is to divert that funding of almost $1 million to be able to grow the infrastructure, to keep our priorities such that infrastructure investment in roads, in bridges, in facilities, and in areas that will help us expand and become more attractive is so that we can find a way to attract new businesses here. It's not a matter of taxing more, it's a matter of priorities. And clearly, the North County Water District, our sewer districts are essential. So it's priority focus of the revenues to be able to create that infrastructure.
All right. Mr. Johnson, same questions.
Our infrastructure can be invested in a lot of different areas. One thing, funding from the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council and Southern Tier West funding, we are way behind. We are one of the last counties to ask for that money. We need to have projects ready, and we have to be able to ask for that money. We have to make budget decisions, not because of politics, but because of what we need and the return on our investment. We were cut $1 million from the county budget, and we say that cuts the taxpayers' money, but we cut it out of IGT funding, which is a dollar-for-dollar match. That dollar-for-dollar match will, by not funding it in this round, we can politically say we're cutting the budget. And then later, because it's such a good deal, we'll find it somewhere else in the budget. Now, I don't know but what we're not going to do in my administration is we're not going to be $18 million in the hole when we start, and then during the year we're going to find $10 million somewhere. That's not going to happen. I can't run my business like that, and I'm not going to run the county like that. Thank you.
Ms. Horrigan, would you like to expand on your thoughts?
Well, Ron, the current county executive put that $1 million in there. It's the legislature that took that money out. That money in the budget, let's talk about what that is. That's taxpayer money. That's the money that you all need out there to pay your bills, to stay in your homes, to provide for your families. We don't need to be asking you for $1 million when you can least afford it just so we can add to our coffers. No. The taxes are the people's money. So therefore, we only tax what we need for essential core services, not to just create more 2-for-1 deals. So it is essential that we focus with our 19 legislatures we'll have this year, because I'm not aware of a single legislator out there that is willing to increase taxes, that's willing to expand our budget and collect more when it is not essential.
All right. Mr. Johnson, back to you.
Well, I guess it's how you look at what that dollar-for-dollar match is. And if we can vary that into the social services budget, and then we can charge the county home for those dollars and make it look like the county home loses $7,000 to $9,000 a day, depending on what we're talking about from one day to the next. I believe that that's smoke and mirrors, and I don't think it's a way of running county government. You're not going to get smoke and mirrors from me. You're going to get exactly what we have, when we have it, and how it can pay you dividends. And that's what I'll continue to do for the next 4 years.
Gentlemen, you've been begging me to ask the question, so I'm going to ask the question. You've been hovering around this topic, so let's move on to the county home. Well, here at Access 5 with the senior report, we have been following this for the last couple of years, and it's been bouncing around, and I don't even know what the status is at certain days, but here's the question. If the home were sold, would you support a pilot, and for those who are watching, it's called a payment in lieu of taxes, for investors to open the way for more senior independent living and assisted living units throughout the county as the baby boomer generation, that's us guys, retire and will fill up the limited services that are presently available. So let's begin with candidate number 1, Mr. Johnson.
I'm trying to understand that question, and because of time, I don't want you to read it again. The problem that I have with this entire subject, and I'll probably bring this up again, is we all look for a 2-minute answer to a very complex issue. And you all want that 2-minute answer, and you want that 2-minute solution. There is no 2-minute answer. And what irritates me is we have people now making these decisions that have not one idea of what they're talking about. They have a big heart, and they believe they're doing the right thing for you, the taxpayer, and they will sell that to you in a 2-minute answer. My opponent said that he checked out the buyer of the new home, and he was in his facility, one of their facilities, for one day. He was in the county home the other day, and it was the second time he had been in the county home. So that one day, and the person who was buying it, he believes that he knows their operation. He was in the county home for the second time, and he believes he knows what's best for those residents and for the taxpayers in the operation of that facility. I've operated those facilities all my adult life, and I believe there is no 2-minute answer. It has a lot to do with continuum of care throughout the county. And I think to not investigate these people any deeper or investigate how we can turn the deficit funding of that home around, I think is ill-advised. And I believe we need to look at that subject much closer, and we need to do it with an eye that takes more than 2 minutes. Thank you.
Mr. Horrigan, same question.
Here's a 200-page report, in-depth review of the Chautauqua County home by an independent Center for Government Research. We have investigated this since Jack Lenzer was the county executive. There's nothing about this 2 minutes. We have looked at it over the year. We have looked at the implementation of electronic medical records. We've looked at the implementation of the therapy section. We've looked at the implementation of staffing suggestions. Out of the 2.4 million possible savings, we've been able to find roughly $500,000, we hope. There's nothing that is just helter-skelter about this. Yes, I visited the team. I have talked to people that in Ulster County of what they've done. This is about investment, seizing investment opportunity, growing the continuum of care. This is about a business plan that works, similar to 80% of the nursing home residents, skilled nursing home in Chautauqua County. We cannot afford to delay and delay and delay when we have a buyer right now who is, and I'm confident, the best operator of our Chautauqua County home.
As part of your rebuttal, I would like to ask you if you could comment on the one part of the question. If the county home were sold down the road, under whatever conditions, would you be interested to offer a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes? And this goes back to you, Mr. Johnson.
I would try to support the county home in any way that we could. It's a push question because I'm then supposed to look at a hypothetical that the county home is sold. If it was sold, I would continue to support everything we could to have that facility continue to operate in this county. One thing we have to realize, and I don't want to anticipate and go into the next question, but we just saw the closure of Lakeshore Hospital. 460 jobs. We had no control over that. There was that group, there was a political and business decision between Brooks and Westfield and Tri-County and Gowanda and Lake Shore, and they decided to close that. We had no control. The only thing that we can control with the county home is if we control that, we can keep it open. We can operate it correctly. If we sell to this wonderful investor, that investor has not given one promise to keep that home in operation for 1 minute past that opening. And I think we need to investigate that a bit.
Thank you. And Mr. Horrigan?
As far as the pilot goes, your question, I would hope that we are able to provide as much tax revenue as possible to the city of Dunkirk and the Dunkirk school system. So I would not be in favor of a pilot agreement. The operator of this home, he's not just an investor, he's an operator. And the track record's what's important. Intentions are important, but results count. And the operations and the investigation of what's been done at Ulster County, at Golden Hills, is clear. Incredible track record that he has turned around and done great work with this county home, public county home in Ulster County. Susquehanna facility is amazing. Absolutely amazing. The quality of care, the medical adult daycare, the therapy unit, it's amazing what they've done. But you brought up the Lakeshore situation. Yes, very disturbing. We have people that are going to need jobs. Where are we going to find those jobs for those people? An investor that comes in with $16.5 million says, I'm going to expand the level of care. There we could find opportunities for those people looking for jobs in Chautauqua County. Let's put them to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's kind of reverse the question, because the first question assumed that we were going to sell it. Now let's assume that you keep it. We all keep hearing the fact that you can't change the state laws and so forth. I think myself and the viewers want to know, if you were county executive and you didn't sell the home, it wasn't sold, how do you in the world do you get the state to change the laws? What would you want to see be done? And how do you make it so it's an even playing field with privately owned facilities? And we start with Mr. Horrigan on that one.
If we do not sell the county home, we will continue to do what I have been deeply involved with, is looking at every possible savings that we can. The major area that we will have to restructure relates to the contract with CSEA. The savings of over $1.3 million that were identified in the Center for Government Research report are tied up in this area. The fringe benefits is 75% of every dollar in payroll. These are why we are losing $2.5 million per year. So what we have, if we do not privatize it, is to continue to search for a buyer where the majority of legislators, the majority of this county want done, continue to look for any potential savings we possibly can, and stay focused with growing our economy, growing our county, attracting new businesses, while trying to do everything we can to cut our costs.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
The CGR report that Mr. Horrigan held up, we've implemented very few of the suggestions to save money that we paid for a study to find out how we could turn the county home around. The report that Mr. Horrigan held up, we've done very few things that they suggested. Also, the county workers in the county home approached the county executive and wanted a dialogue on how they could find concession and save the county home. Those discussions broke down. Our current administration and the current labor force are not talking. We need to once again find our partners, those people that are doing this job, and help us find solution. And they will help us find solution. We can operate that home at a break-even or profitable condition. Chemung County, their county executive was for selling the home, but later on found that let's find how we can operate it at a profit. Chemung County is contracted with private operators to work within the home, and it's projected that they will make $2 million this year on that change alone. Their home is smaller. It hasn't had the investment that we've already put in our county home, and I believe we can match those successes if we only stop looking at selling it and start looking at operating it. And that's what I plan to do.
Thank you. Mr. Horgan and Mr. Johnson, in your rebuttal, could you at least comment a little bit about the thought on changing the state laws that would allow the home to expand? Mr. Horgan?
I have personally addressed this issue with our state elected leaders. And what they are telling me is there is no appetite for increasing the amount of, or changing the regulations from this, especially with our downstate elected officials. My assessment is that any real changes to be able to go to assisted living levels of care, assisted living arrangement, independent adult medical care, the concern is how that is going to impact if government subsidizes the home, which it would do through IGT, how that's going to impact other operators in our county that do not get any subsidizing. 80% of the nursing homes are that way. We only have one, which is the Chautauqua County home. So I do not see at this point, either at the federal level or the state level, any move to be able to allow government to run the home with different modalities of care, when in reality the private sector does this extremely well with no taxpayer subsidy.
Thank you. And Mr. Johnson?
First of all, to say that we don't subsidize nursing home care in this county comes from not understanding the system. The taxpayers of Chautauqua County pay 10% of every Medicaid resident in every nursing home, no matter who operates it in our county. That's Lutheran Social Services, Absolute, everyone. The taxpayers in Chautauqua County pay 10% of the Medicaid dollars that go into those facilities. So to say that we're out of the business if we sell the county home is ridiculous. The taxpayer funds the Medicaid portion of those homes, no matter who owns it. Now let's make that clear. The other thing is about state law that doesn't allow county government to be in nursing or in assisted living. I happen to be a vice president of that organization that helped form that law, helped draft that law, and helped get it passed. I understand that law, and what we can do is we can have partnerships, like what was started in Chemung County. We've got a 30-acre campus there that we can help with private investment and not lose control of the county beds that are available in the county home. Not sell our asset in a fire sale. And I'm saying that's what we need to do.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'll give you a chance to grab some water if you want, and I'm just going to give you a little commercial break here. Folks, if you're just joining us, I'm Doc Hamels, part of the Senior Report team and Access 5 Channel 5. If you are just joining us, you are watching a live debate with Mr. Vince Horrigan and Mr. Ron Johnson, who are both vying for the position of County Executive, and the race is going to be decided on November 5th. So this is your opportunity to have a look-see and see what you think. All right, if you want to call in, 753-5225. I've heard the phones ringing already. I feel like there's a little bit of a telethon going on back there, so maybe people are listening. If you want to catch us later on, you can catch us on YouTube, and we'll give you a little bit of information about that later on. But let's continue with the debate. We're about, I don't even know what we're into, about 36 minutes into debate right now, and we're We're chugging right ahead, and now we're going to switch topics to water and sewer in the county. I know that this is another one of those burning topics about the Chautauqua Lake and the other lakes. And so here's the question, and we're going to pose this to Mr. Johnson to begin with, so I'm going to give you the question as it's noted here. As we all know, water and sewer are key infrastructures for our county growth. What is your vision for the county regarding this matter? Who's going to pay for it? And without this, there's no economic growth. How do you cope with this? Mr. Johnson.
Me?
Yep.
Water and sewer are key to economic development in Chautauqua County. We have a situation where in the north end we're working on water availability to rural areas and to the entire North County area and along the lake shore. In the south, we've got the problem of the sewer system around Chautauqua Lake. I've been hearing about solutions for this since I was a little boy here. I understand that it's an important subject and that we have to think differently. And the way we're going to think differently is we're going to think bigger. We have to look at that as one big project, a project that we all can work on, that we're all part of it. And for instance, in the north end, we have to include our partners, and we need to include the infrastructure that's already there and already been invested in. If they are part of the solution, then we find solution. If we just try to go buy them, it doesn't work. And we found that politically, it doesn't work. So I would like to see more of a concerned effort, with the county being the facilitator, of bringing all these partners together and finding the solution once and for all. And that solution may be trying to get funding from outside for one project that will solve this problem once and for all.
Thank you. Mr. Horrigan, your opportunity.
Well, as far as the Chautauqua Lake sewer system, I am involved with this. I know what's going on with this as a member of the South and Center Sewer Board. It's a $20.3 million project. It involves filling in the gaps between Goose Creek, Chautauqua Institution, and on the other side of the lake from Hartville to Maple Springs. We know what the cost is. We are fine-tuning how we're going to integrate that system with Chautauqua Institution utility system in the North County Mayville Water District. Now, as far as where that money comes from, Congressman Tom Reed has a Corps of Engineer bill before right now that he's introducing that will help assist in Chautauqua Lake invasive species and community development block grant funding and transportation funding should be able to give us a path to be able to fund that improvement in Chautauqua Lake water sewer system. The ratepayers will have to step up as well because it will have to be connected just the way it was in the other part of the lake. So we're on track with that. In the case of the North County Water District, clearly essential. We have a consolidated funding application receiving high points. We'll get funding there. But then, once again, we'll have to develop the structure where the ratepayers are able to fund that very, very important project, which will actually result, I believe, in a reduction of rates when we have that regional infrastructure project.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, back to you for a rebuttal.
I would hope Mr. Reed will help us with that and not shut down the government again, but that's another subject altogether. And I support all those efforts of our elected officials. I also want to talk to the governor and the governor's office and his programs. I also want to talk to congressmen outside our area. I've talked to Congressman Higgins, and we've talked about ways that we can fund these projects in Chautauqua County. I applaud any help from outside the county and inside the county to solve a very important problem.
Okay, and Mr. Horrigan, any final thoughts on that topic?
Well, I mean, that's interesting where we go. We have infrastructure plans. It's about implementation. How do we implement? You need to look at who is the best county executive that can implement these plans and programs. We need to get it done. We don't need any more studies. We need to develop clear lines of funding. Those funding lines generally are through the state with some federal help as well. So we're on track with this. This isn't something that we need to start all over. Congressman Higgins no longer represents us here. Congressman Reed does. Senator Schumer's been involved. So we need to focus on keeping our eye on the ball and not spreading this out to get to where, well, we'll start over, we'll find other funding. We know where we're headed on this, so it's a matter of stepping up to the plate and implementing it.
Okay, if we can move on to the second question under this topic. Now, I'll give you a little insight. We have a gentleman that's running the board right now, Jeff Zook, and this is a pet project. And I know that he asked these series of questions, so this one's for Jeff. We're constantly hearing that out-of-town people say, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful around here. However, the lakes continue to be a football tossed around about whose responsibility it is to maintain it. With limited resources, and I know you've touched on it a little bit, what's your plan to revitalize the lake, clean up the sewer issues, and provide good drinking water? Because not everybody in this county has good drinking water. They got to buy it. But guys, who owns a lake? Who's responsible? I don't have the answer to that. And if we could start with Mr. Horrigan, we'll see what you have to say.
You know, during the legislature debate on the floor, one legislator said the state owns the lake. It's the state's problem. We all own that lake. Property owners own that lake. Towns and villages and municipalities around, they own that lake. The visitors own that lake. We all do. What we're really talking about is funding. Do the private property owners have a duty to step up? Absolutely. And they're doing that now. My goal is to implement a restructuring of something like a Chautauqua Lake Management Consortium, where municipalities will also buy in to help fixing this lake. We now have a submerged aquatic vegetation plan. It is almost ready for implementation. We need to implement. That submerged aquatic vegetation plan is going to address the lake in every different zone where different techniques will be used. So I am very confident that the solution is public, private. Yes, there will be some federal help, primarily state and local, is going to be able to put together this plan with permitting with the DEC. As far as clean drinking water goes, sure, that's always an essential, important element. Around Chautauqua Lake, we have some limited water districts. These are infrastructure. But we have to continue to move forward and ensure that the proper regulations are followed to make sure we're not contaminating the water we have. And I think we have a pretty good start on that. But once again, it's our environment that's essential to us and trying to create the right structure to get the funding in place.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, your views.
I'm also in agreement that we have to do something to get it done. We've been talking about it, we've been studying it, we've been talking about it again, and we've spent money to study it again. I believe that our plan should be to where we go and how we finish it. I want to see a finished product, not a piecemeal idea from here to there. And I think that we can do that with our partners in the towns and villages, municipalities, with our property owners, and everyone involved in the lake. And so that my vision different is that we need to have a big central picture in how we get water, clean water, and we save the lake by the sewer around the lake, and also initiatives to help farmers. So the runoff to the lake is also controlled.
Thank you. In your follow-up comments, could you touch on a little bit about, let's get away from the lake, but other folks in the rest of the county, good water. Lots of people, towns are putting in infrastructure for water lines down 5 and 20 and 394 and 60 perhaps. How are we going to help all those folks get good water? Mr. Horrigan.
I need to come back 1 minute though. In my tour of agriculture yesterday, we need to stop this idea that somehow the farmers are responsible for all this runoff going into Chautauqua Lake. Simply not true. The mitigation that's been done, Soil and Water has been on this, and they have done incredible work in the manure pits and other runoff to make sure that agriculture is part of the solution and not part of the problem. So I want to make that clear. As far as the overall quality of water, I think it so much varies. In some cases, we have sulfur issues. In other cases, we have other contaminants that are running in. And, I would just say that municipality by municipality needs to address these issues. In the case of the lake and water, that's everybody coming together. So I think it's both a regional, it's a county problem, but yes, it's also a local problem. So that's where I would stand on the overall quality of water in Chautauqua County.
Thank you. And Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, and once again, I'd like to say that we have other lakes in this county other than Chautauqua, and Lake Erie shoreline is another place that needs attention. But once again, who owns the Lake Erie shoreline? I think we get back to that debate, but we own it. We have to do what we can for all the lakes in this area. As far as water, small municipal systems are finding, with ever-increasing federal and state regulations on the quality of water, they're finding it more and more difficult and more expensive to continue their operation. The problem what we've had with the North County water system is that we've disregarded some of the investment they have already made in their systems, and we should be able to use those as a resource. We do not want to stop the resources that we already have. We want to make them inclusive and find solution with all those municipal water systems and how we can find one comprehensive program.
All right, thank you. All right. For the viewers, the gentlemen here, Mr. Horrigan and Mr. Johnson, know the topics of what I'm going to be asking about, but they don't have the exact questions. So these questions I'm throwing at them are fresh. They don't know where I'm coming from, and I think we're doing a good job, gentlemen. We're about halfway through the program. Once again, if you want to call in, folks, the phone has been ringing. I've heard it several times. If you have a question for these folks, call us at 753-5225. I'm Doc Hamels, and I'm happy that you're joining us here today during our debate. Okay, let's move on to something that is all near and dear to all of us, and that's taxes, employment, and the economy. You gentlemen both have touched on it in a variety of ways, but I'd like you to address this area where I keep hearing, and I haven't just heard it here at the studio, because I know Reed Powers will mention this quite often, but I've heard this from other folks. I'm hearing that Chautauqua County is the most taxed county in the United States per capita for its size, I suppose. All right? In other words, for counties similar to us in size. As we look backwards, we've streamlined government, we've cut costs, we've streamlined. We are told that we need to sell our county programs, such as the county home and the airports. How does this all translate into jobs when we have high taxes, we're cutting programs, and how do we get a thriving economy going when it seems to be going in the wrong direction? And let's start with Mr. Johnson.
As we watch the administration of our county, we see people wring their hands. We see our county officials saying there's nothing we can do. High taxes, state mandates, deficit budgets. There's nothing we can do. We're powerless. As a businessman, I deal with those realities every single day. And then you have to do something else to grow your business. You have to go around those perceived weaknesses, and you have to find your strength, and you have to build on that. We cannot continue to cut core services to reduce our taxes. How has that worked for us? We've cut the 4-H, and we've cut, we had a maneuver where there was $500,000 added to senior programs. And then we cut half of that. And now we've cut all of that. And we continue to see this maneuvering when what we need to do is find solution. And I believe if we operate our county like a business, and we find solution, and we move around perceived weakness, and we do things, and we start to talk about how our county is the best county in the state instead of the worst, we can start to see growth. We need to bring people here and show them this county. They need to know that in most economic areas of the world, property in Chautauqua County is virtually free. But we don't talk about that. We talk about high taxes and state mandates. High taxes and state mandates are across the state, but we are lagging behind every other state in the recovery. We need to stop doing that. We need to start looking at the positive, and we need to start growing.
Thank you. Mr. Horrigan, your opportunity.
Me too. Me too, I want to grow. Me too, we need the taxes down. Let me give you some specific ideas on comments that were brought up. We've been able to restructure 4-H through a fund through the Community Foundation. $25,000 has been put in their budget over the last 2 years. They do a great job with fundraising. We've been able to solve that. As far as Office of the Aging goes, there was a $500,000 program put into that budget for senior nutrition, for home health care. I personally think we need to implement that, but over 2 years. That's because we have a waiting list. Why am I doing that? We're doing it because we got to keep the taxes down. Even the governor in Startup New York, what's our problem? High taxes. Now he's got a task force to cut down taxes. We have got this issue that is clearly a detriment to Chautauqua County. Actually, we're the 8th highest taxed county as a percentage of mean home value. So what do we need to do? Yes, we need to address and show people our county, but guess what? They're here. They're second homeowners. There's incredible taxes that are being paid by people that are second homeowners. So we need to address them. We need to grow the county. How are we going to do that? We're going to look at our existing businesses. We're going to see what they need. We're going to grow them. And guess what? We'll celebrate successes. We'll create momentum. And we will return this county to growth. And we will use tourism and industrial and the jobs that we have, just like we're seeing, 12 and 13, a big increase in tourism. People love Chautauqua County. Let's move them on to the industrial sector as well.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, you have an opportunity to rebuttal.
Like Mr. Horrigan said, I agree. We all want growth. We all want the best for everyone in the county. And we have different ways of approaching those problems. That's the difference between Mr. Horrigan and myself. And I hope that you will make that decision on November 5th.
Okay, Mr. Horrigan, back to you. Same question or rebuttal.
Well, I guess, my opponent's talking about a businessman and being a business. Of course, I was in a not-for-profit business for 10 years here in Chautauqua County. I signed the front of a paycheck as well. I know what it takes to be profitable as we grew. That operation doubled in size. But I would say if we're going to operate as a business, let's operate as a business. Let's get government on what shouldn't be. Let's put the private sector in charge of what it should be. Look at the incredible successes that we have with some of our skilled nursing homes and how they're organized and the business plan in Chautauqua County. Let's be true to ourselves. Let's operate as a business, because that's how we're going to grow this county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Well, folks, we're down to about 35 minutes left in the debate. We still have one more question from me, and then we're going to have questions from you. I don't know what the questions are going to be, so it's going to be new to all of us here in a little bit, but I do have a question that we have that's here. All right, it's a follow-up to the whole area of taxes and employment and the economy. And this is sort of like taking the question and reversing it a little bit. And it's a question of the old chicken and the egg. I hear this all the time. If taxes weren't so high, businesses wouldn't leave. People say, well, if we had businesses, the taxes wouldn't be high. So the question is, did industry leave Chautauqua County? Because of that, did they cause our taxes to increase and because of the eroding tax base, or did increasing taxes cause industry to move out? In other words, what really happened here? Everybody's just kind of looking at each other going like, well, it's your fault because you did this, and we would have stayed if you hadn't done that. So Mr. Horrigan, if you have some comments on that, I'm sure the viewers would love to hear it.
Well, I'm looking at the statistics, New York State Department of Labor, and looking at the number of employed jobs we have, and I note that Really, we've been pretty steady for the last 10 years until 2008. What happened in 2008? We had a significant recession in this country. Therefore, what's happened? Forces outside the county have created a situation where in the manufacturing area, we've lost considerable jobs. Companies have decided where they're going to be located. We're going to face that fact, but we now need to sit there and concentrate on what we can control. We do not need to be expanding our government at this time. We need to be lean. We need to be efficient. We need to only focus on core services and get out of the business of stuff that should be done by the private sector. So we can control that. I've talked about the business growth. We got to focus on our own businesses and our infrastructure. So why businesses leave, I think, is more often a function of things outside our control, but we can control taxes, and we can control how we go find those new jobs. Jobs and taxes. That's what this election's about. My focus is core government. My focus is get out of the business of stuff we shouldn't be in. But my focus is also not to just go raise taxes or invest, as some people would say, and hope that they will come. We do not need to be building buildings and hope that they will come. What we need to do is be able to use the incentives we have and the sites we have that are shovel ready and move-in ready and say, we need you to come to Chautauqua County because of our energy advantage, our tax advantages, and because this is just a great place to live and work and play. So that's the impact.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, your thoughts on the matter?
Of course we have to do that, Mr. Horrigan says, but we have to do other things also. We have to look at everything. When we deal with this economic development issue and with taxes, we have to look at everything. First of all, I'd like to note that if you look at your tax burden, one of the lowest tax burdens is your county tax. We have a huge problem with school tax, which seems to keep going up and up. We have to deal with that, and we have to deal with that with some new thinking. I would like to see some consolidation, as we tried in Brockton and Westfield, and that didn't work. Let's find out why it didn't work, and let's find out how we can consolidate. Maybe just we're thinking too small. Wouldn't it be something to have a county-wide school system? That's something we could work on. Instead of 17 county and 17 school superintendents, we could do it with one. That would save money. That would save taxpayers money. These are the things we have to look at. We have to look at every single area. As far as industrial parks, in Mark Thomas's administration, he took a chance. He did a risk. If we had not done that, we would not have Southern Tier Brewing. We would not have Serta Mattress. We would not have those employers now that are creating jobs and are sustained jobs in our county. We wouldn't have them. And I think we need to look at doing that more. We need to look at the feasibility of building these industrial parks because they work. Genesee County built an agribusiness park that is wildly successful. And they used Chautauqua County's game plan in doing that. We're behind in these kind of developments, and we have to get back in the game.
All right. Mr. Horrigan, I can see on your face that you have something you want to say.
Well, thank you. We have our industrial parks. They're available. We have an incredible one in Mason Industrial Park with a railroad spur, with good energy costs. We got it. Up in Chadwick Bay, we had one of these spec buildings that went on for 5 years before we were able to get someone to purchase it. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, and we sold it again. We had success with Southern Tier, but here's my point. You build a building. For who? For what? Instead, let's provide the incentive, the sites, the locations, the initiative, the incentives, and let the people design their own building. Government can't do that. Government's lousy at designing buildings. Government's lousy at running stuff that the private sector knows what they want. What businesses want, they want a break. They want some incentive. Pennsylvania's doing it. They're doing it all over the place. The reason why pilots exist and other incentives and tax incentives exist, the reason why we have Startup New York exist, we're trying to get people here. We're competing. So let's provide what business really needs. They don't need a building. That isn't going to work for them. So we've got these industrial parks. They're important for us. We've got energy areas. We've got other incentives available to us. So let's get to what business really needs and not pretend the government knows best.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, follow up.
I believe that we need to give business what they need, and I know that because I'm a businessman. I understand what attracts businessmen, and I would continue to do that. And my network would find those people that need that. We wouldn't go into industrial parks blind. We'd know what we need, and we know what we can market. We need to know what we can market. So far, we haven't done a very good job of that. And I would see that we need to go back to what works. Not what we think can work, but what works. Thank you.
Okay. Well, folks, we're down to the last 28 minutes. You probably thought, boy, an hour and a half, that's a long time to debate. It's going by quick. I don't know about how it is for you. Of course, I'm just sitting here asking questions. You're doing all the work. Folks, you're watching a debate right now for County Executive for the 2013 County Executive race. It'll be held on November 5th. And we've got Mr. Ron Johnson and Mr. Vince Horrigan discussing topics that we've posed from the folks here at the studio. Now, those were the questions we posed. I got these right off the phone. So if I can, I'm going to read the question, and we're going to start with Mr. Johnson when I'm done. Okay, here we go. Remember, I didn't write these. How do you feel about Mr. Edwards, I'm assuming that's Mr. Greg Edwards, his allocation of $500,000 for senior citizens? The legislature cut this in half. Does this mean increased health care costs? How is this looking for our kids? I'm assuming that means the cost might be put upon the other generation if the seniors have been cut. I think that's what that means. Mr. Johnson.
Well, I'm glad you know what that means, but I wasn't. I don't know. I think I mentioned that earlier, that I because I'm not involved in politics, and now I am. People suggested that I am now a politician. I can't say that I'm not. But I don't like that game where an outgoing county executive puts $500,000 into the Office for the Aging. A person in his party who's running for county executive can help the taxpayers by cutting half of that. And then they can help seniors by keeping half of it. And then the rest of the county legislature can cut the rest of it. So we can all say, we help the seniors, we help the taxpayers, and I'm not so sure who we helped in that process.
Okay. Mr. Horrigan, your side.
I'm disappointed, Ron, in that analysis. I'm really disappointed. Why are we have this $500,000? To keep seniors in their homes, to keep them in their homes with nutrition and home health care so they don't wind up going into nursing homes. These funds relate to individual income levels. Now, is my motivation a game? No. What I'm concerned about is the impact on those seniors and people on fixed incomes that are telling me no more taxes. So what I looked at is, this is a waiting list we're trying to get at. My thinking is, you're not going to accomplish every one of those people on that waiting list and spend all $500,000 in 1 year. What you're going to do is take half the list, and you're going to work through. Some will be there, some won't. So my judge was, let's spend $250,000 each year over 2 years. We'll get to the $500,000. And on the budget hearings, I intend to put money back into this budget because it's all been taken out, not by me, but by members of the Audit and Control Committee. So I intend to fight to put as much back as we can, balancing the burden of the taxpayer. That's what it's about. It's not a game.
Mr. Johnson, back to you.
I would applaud you putting money back in for seniors. I would applaud any kind of help for the continuum of care, because the continuum of care is what takes pressure off places like the county home that if the pressure has been placed on them. The county traditionally has cut funds for private enriched housing, private assisted living throughout the county. And they've continued to cut funds and programs from those very vital services. I applaud Mr. Horrigan if he's going to put that money back. I'm really looking forward to the point when I can start to direct some of that money and try to work our way through that legislative process. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Horrigan, final thoughts on that question?
You know, as a member of the legislature, I see the dynamic. I communicate with the county executive, as I'm sure you've all read in the newspapers. I communicate with my fellow legislators. Building a county budget is a balance between core services and the burden of the taxpayer. Easy for me to put something in the budget when I'm spending your money. Therefore, we've got to be in a position that we consider multiple points of view to get to a budget that's acceptable, that understands the impact of individual people out in the taxpaying area. So working with the legislature is a give and take. It's about compromise. It's about reaching over the fence to come up with a solution. I've got a track record of doing that, and I look forward to continuing now as the county executive to be able to implement those budgets that can provide core quality services.
Okay, gentlemen, let's switch gears one more time. This is from our callers once again. This is the second question we'll be posing, and then the phones are shut off, folks. I mean, you can call in, but if you want to talk to these gentlemen, you'll have to call at their offices or their campaign offices. The question is this, and we're going to begin with Mr. Horrigan this time. I'm going to read it the best I can and try to explain it the way I see it. When considering wages and fringe benefits, and you both have talked about that, why are we looking only at the county home and not county government's wages and benefits? Mr. Horrigan.
Well, what has brought this to light is labor contract and labor contract inputs. There is, as part of the New York State retirement system, there are certain requirements by law that are required to fund the retirement system. The primary area that we look at in determining whether or not to be able to live with a labor contract gets into the wages, the fringe benefits, the health care options, and all of those. So it's primarily that entire contract, which is a large portion of county government, that we're talking about. Now, every year as the county legislature, we look at wage increases, we look at the fringe. This year, health insurance costs actually are flat. Why? Incredible care programs, I should say wellness programs that have been implemented. It's kind of a unique time in our county where we actually don't have an increase. But we do, through the budget program, we look at every bit of wages, fringe benefits, retirement. What is kind of in the focus now, for example, is the fact finder's report of the third-party look at the CSEA contract. So that's why it has some notoriety right now. It's in the news. However, as part of the budget process, we look at the entire spectrum of wages and benefits across every aspect of government.
Okay, and thank you. I just got word from the studio engineering booth, gentlemen. This is just get us a little bit down the road and for you to be thinking about. We'll have enough time for the full time for you to close your comments, okay? We're going to get that into a little bit, but I promise when I knew, I would let you know. And through the power and magic of TV, they sent me a message. So thanks, Chris. Okay, the question goes back to you, Mr. Johnson, as far as fringe benefits and why we're concentrating on the county home and not county-wide government.
We're concentrating on the county home because that seems to be the hot topic right now. What we need to do is we need to open a dialogue with our labor force, and they need to be at the table to help us find solution. We forget once in a while that the labor force of Chautauqua County are also taxpayers. They understand the problems of the burdens of taxes on our county, but they continue to work to provide the services that we all ask for and we all need. Those roads that need to be plowed at midnight, those people that need to be cared for, those people that need services that each and every one of those employees work hard every day to do. What we need to do is we need to recognize their contribution to the county government. They need to be part of the county government, and they need to be part of the solution. And that's what I've said to the people of the CSEA, is we won't always agree, but what they will be is they will be part of the solution. And I think for too long, they have not been part of the solution. It's been deemed that they are the problem. We need to stop that, and I believe that we will find solution to our taxation problem and the problem of the of how we pay for county government. And our workforce will be a big part of that solution.
Okay, very good. Back to you, Mr. Horrigan. Final thoughts on that question.
Well, again, let's look at some specifics. As far as CSEA and the workers go, they do an incredible job. As part of my initiative with lean government, guess what? We're going to get right down into every aspect of how our services are delivered. We're going to form teams, and we're going to listen to the workers of how we can be more efficient and effective. That's one of my tenets of lean thinking, a team concept of being able to develop solutions by the people that are closest to delivering the service. If you look at my record on voting for CSA contracts, one's come before me, and I was one of 14 legislators that voted to approve the CSEA contract for the Sheriff's Department. Others did not. We couldn't afford it. Well, I believe that this was a good and fair contract. Our workers in county government do a lot of things. They are out all the time that we don't even know about. We've been able to keep the numbers employed under control to where it helps our tax base and helps our tax assessment, I should say, which that means the burden on each one is doing more. They're doing a lot. So how do we put together the right structure, the right compensation? There are ideas that I have. Unfortunately, I've been cautioned about any discussion of this as a member of the legislature due to labor law. But there will be an engagement by me, a fresh look at our contract negotiations. What I'm going to do is take where we were, get rid of it, and I'm going to start anew. Because, of course, the labor force is an essential element of how we get things done.
Thank you, Mr. Horrigan. And Mr. Johnson, you get the last official rebuttal of the day.
Once again, we have to recognize our county workers and the job they do in the county. When we talk about cutting positions, Mr. Horrigan talked about cutting positions, which increased the caseload of some of our workers. Last year, the county had to give back $1 million in child care funding because we couldn't get that money out. We couldn't do the job we needed to do. We need to look at that. The other thing that I want to say in the rebuttal is Google lean government. Don't think that it means that we just cut everything and that's what it is. It's a management system like Six Sigma that didn't work in Erie County, like CCP or CPP in Chautauqua County. It's a management system that costs money, and I think that if you want to look at that, Google those systems and find out what we're talking about when we say lean government.
All right. Well, folks, we are come to the point we are done debating the questions, and we're now going to come to the point where each candidate will have 5 minutes uninterrupted by myself or anyone else to close out their position. We're going to start with Mr. Horrigan. So Mr. Johnson, if you want to catch your breath. Mr. Horrigan, if you need a drink of water, I'll keep talking for a second, or are you good to go? He's good to go.
I'm good to go.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Horrigan is going to close out his comments, and he has 5 minutes.
Well, I need to pick up where my opponent just left off on lean government. We're not going to spend any more money on lean government. We're going to save money, okay? We did this in the United States Air Force very successfully when we went from a Cold War structure to a war on terror. We're not going to spend money, we're going to save money. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get value. We're going to put value for government. But back to the folks at hand, you the voters. You got a decision on November 5th. It's an important one. In the news we see Lakeshore Healthcare Center closing. We've seen the loss of Petrie and other companies. And we sit there and we say, where are we headed? What's the future? Well, the future's bright. And I'm here to say what really is before you when you go into that election booth. You're going to have to determine, who do I trust? Who is that inspiring leader that is going to lead us, that's going to implement, that's going to bring people together, and that has a plan? Specific initiatives, not generalities. And I think you'll find, when you look at this, that Vince Horrigan is the right guy for that. As someone in the United States Air Force in very senior positions, looking at restructuring, looking at motivation and leadership, I have found that I have the experience, I've seen what it takes to be able to get the ball across the goal line. And that's what I intend to do. I will pledge to you that I will look at jobs and taxes. I'm going to keep your taxes down. I'm going to focus on core government services. I will not let the seniors down. As I said yesterday to our county home residents, I care about you. I want the best for you. And I want to say yes to an investor that's got $16.5 million, that wants to expand services. I want to say yes to people looking for jobs. That's where I say yes to expanding our tax base. We are also hopeful that NRG gets the go-ahead to be able to invest $500 million in the clean gas power plant. It is essential. So let's not turn our back on an investment opportunity as we look at that. I want to say yes to our employees who have ideas, who have solutions. I want to say yes to outcome-based government. We work at things, we throw money at things. Do we ever get the outcome we want? That's the question to you. Lean thinking gives us the ability for those closest to the service to come to solutions, not through spending money, but value. That's how we get where we need to go. That's how we get productivity, not working harder, but working smarter together. I want to say yes to the people that are in poverty. They need a better life. They want a better life, but they're stuck. They're stuck because our job readiness training, our work experience training are not where they need to be. I want to strengthen both of those. But guess who I want to bring to the table on that? Our businesses. Through subsidized training, listening to them of how we can match and fix employability initiatives. That's why I have made this job one for the last year, is I brought together services, service clubs, not-for-profit, businesses, government, to find solutions to those problems. And I want to say yes to jobs. You know how we're going to do it? We're going to look right here to our existing businesses. They're here. We don't have to go find them. We don't have to build parks for them. We're going to go see what they need in terms of technology, in terms of other management initiatives, with a revolving loan fund. How can we help you grow? And I want to say yes to our second home property owners. They're here. They're successful businesses. You play here. Why not invest here? Those are two specific areas where we're going to find people to help grow jobs in Chautauqua County. We got to create momentum. We got to be proud of who we are. We got to be proud of our county. And you need to decide who is the best one as an inspiring leader, as a trusted leader, to get Chautauqua County back on a path of growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horrigan. Mr. Johnson, you have the last say.
7,700 fewer people employed in our county in just 7 years. 11% of our county workforce gone in less than a decade. Chautauqua County has lost more jobs than Cattaraugus, Allegheny, Wyoming, and Livingston counties combined. 17.7% of our citizens live in poverty. We've gone from the top county of moving people from welfare to work to one of the worst. We cannot solve problems by using the same thinking that we used to get in them. So what do I propose? First, we need new leadership in the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency and Department of Economic Development. I will look locally and outside the county to find an innovative candidate to lead our county economic development efforts. Now let me say this. I have no problem whatsoever with the IDA board. They are volunteer citizens who are doing a great job for our county. But I've found that boards are only as good as the materials they're given to work with. I will begin an immediate analysis of all potential economic development sites in Chautauqua County. And we'll determine what, if any, investment is needed in each one of those sites. We need to know where our business-ready sites are and what investment are needed to bring them to a place we can market them. Never again will a water line stand between us and 200 good jobs. We'll work with our local, state, and federal partners to foster job creation, ideas, and actions. Chautauqua County is lagging other counties in western New York when it comes to putting new ideas on the table. We must change this quickly, and we need to get back in the game. My goal is to have projects in the pipeline for the next round of the governor's regional economic development next year. Also, I have to have projects in the pipeline for the next round of Southern Tier West funding. And I will elevate our county's presence in each of those important bodies. From day one, we will focus on Startup New York and work to identify opportunities that utilize the important program associated with Fredonia State and our 2 Jamestown Community College campuses. We will look into the feasibility of new industrial, business, technology parks, especially in agribusiness and technology. Water could be the job creation savior of the North County, and it will help in the South. We need to examine all ways the county can work with local, state, and federal partners in getting this very important job done once and for all. Vince Lombardi once said that some of us will do our jobs well. Some of us will not. But we'll be judged on only one thing, and that's result. You will never hear me say that job creation is beyond my control, that tax relief is beyond my control, that problems with our county are beyond my control. I pledge that if I'm elected and we don't add jobs during the first term, I will not seek re-election. I will not ask you to vote for me again. You should demand results of your elected officials, and I will demand results from myself and my team. If I don't produce those results, I will not ask you to vote for me again. The last 7 years have been a disaster in our county, and we simply cannot accept more of the same. If you want a new approach a committed effort to turn this job-hemorrhaging local economy around, then I respectfully ask you for your vote, for your support, and your prayers, because we're all in this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Well, folks, there you have it. I want to thank Mr. Johnson and Mr. Horrigan for joining us today. I want to thank those of you, the viewers that have joined us, and I hope that this was informative and helps you make your decision on Election Day. I want to thank those that called in. I know there was more than just a couple of you, but perhaps the questions were similar to the questions that we posed. The special thanks goes out to Chris Burt. He's the fellow that was running around here. He really put this whole project together for us. Jeff Zook, who's our engineer, he flips the camera switches and makes us all look and sound good. Randy Burt, our cameraman, who zooms around here taking pictures and helping with the backdrops and so forth and putting the program together. Folks, this show is going to be rebroadcasted throughout the week, and I can't tell you what channel it is in your particular area because it depends on where you live in the county, but it's going to be shown, I believe, twice each day. And we're going to putting up 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. daily. Also, we're going to flip something on here for you right now. It's the YouTube site. They tell me that they've got that ready. Oh, look at magic. All right, it's smart URL, that's all one word, .it, and then the backslash Chautauqua County Debate, the CC Debate 2013. If you want to see this again or share this with your friends, if you want to shoot it to Facebook, whatever you want, we encourage everybody to have a look at our candidates before us today, because this is a huge decision. This is a lot riding on this election. We hope the debate was informative and gave you the opportunity to learn about each candidate and where he stands on a variety of issues. Want to thank you for tuning in. I'm Doc Hamels, and I look forward to all of you joining us again on the Senior Report with Reed Powers. If you haven't seen it before, it's every Saturday morning from 9 to 10. We have a variety of guests each week. We have folks like Mr. Johnson, Mr. Horrigan. We have people talk about birds, fishing, all sorts of topics. And it's also a live call-in show where you can express your opinions and so forth. If you like today's program, drop us a line, give us a call. Let us know if you'd like to see more kinds of programs like this, because it's important to us. Again, this is free of charge. None of us get paid, so you don't have to worry about cutting our salaries or our fringe benefits here, folks. This is your tax dollars working for you, and we are more than happy to bring the show to you here at Access Cable 5. And ladies and gentlemen, I bid you a wonderful weekend. Thanks for viewing in. Again, thanks to Mr. Johnson and Mr. Horrigan for joining us, and Mr. Karutis and Mr. Himmelheim from last week. We hope that this has been very special for you. I'm Doc Hamill signing off, and we'll see you next time on the Senior Report. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Good job, too.
Yeah.